Hi everyone. So let's continue our Angular series. So in this video, we will understand the Angular structure. So according to different versions, this structure might differ a little bit. Okay. So now let's start with the first file to be executed when you run your application. This file is main.ts file. This has bootstrapped the app component. So this is the app component. Now I said that when you run the application. So run means what? You are starting the application, you are serving the application. So where is that command? Where is that script written? So you have package.json file where you have all the libraries and dependencies mentioned. Dependencies with their versions you can see here. Okay. And your scripts. These are the scripts which have the commands which will be executed. So you have written over here. So first to start, it is ngserve command. So what does this ngserve do? So this ngserve is basically for local development and testing purpose. So it watches all the files and rebuilds the application whenever you make any change automatically. But this does not mean that it is creating an output directory like dist. This is only for local purpose. Okay, so no dist folder will be created. So where it will save, yeah, store the artifacts. So it will build artifacts in its own memory. Now we have build command. So ng build command is used for building and preparing for deployment purpose. Okay, so it is compiling into output directory, means it is compiling the whole code, whole application into output directory, that is dist. So it generates static files that can be served by a web server. Whenever you run this ng build, then one dist folder is generated in the root of this application. So here you can see below public dist will be generated. So what is that dist folder? That dist folder contains the final minimized code. Okay, minimized code. That code only gets deployed and used by end users. So that code is production ready code or deployment ready code. This improves the load times. Now, whenever you do npm install or yarn install, node modules is a folder that contains third-party libraries, gets automatically generated, and this is the node modules. We cannot modify it. This is automatically generated by the Angular. So we cannot modify it, we cannot change, we cannot edit it. But where is the configuration of the Angular stored? Here is the third-party libraries, okay. In package.json, we have scripts and libraries. So the configuration is present in angular.json. This is the file containing all the configurations for this application. Now, one thing I told you about dist folder. So one question can come that can we rename that dist folder? So the answer is yes. We can rename that dist folder. We just have to go inside this angular.json file. Here we have build option. Inside that build we have options and we have output path. So in this output path we have to change this dist part. So after slash we have our project name. So before that, if we change this dist to ABC, so ABC will be the name of the folder that will be generated when you will build. Okay, so when you will do ng build, ABC folder will be generating and containing all the minimized code if I have written here. Otherwise, by default, it is dist. So it can be renamed. This was one concept. Now, this we have public folder. This public folder is something new which was introduced in Angular 18 versions. Earlier we don't had public folder, but we had favicon.ico, this file, and one assets folder inside source, that is src folder. So what are these two files? First of all, we will get to know. Favicon.ico file is the file that contains all the icons which our application will be using to display on the browser. Basically, favicon is also known as shortcut icon. Okay, either shortcut icon, or we can say bookmark icon, or we can say browser icon, tab icon. So this icon is what, if I show you one example. So this is the Canva website I have opened. So you can see in this tab, this icon. This is company specific icon. So whenever you need to customize any application according to the company, and you need to put the logo, so you just have to change the logo present in the favicon.ico file. Now we have assets folder. Earlier, that assets folder was used to store static resources like images, fonts, JSON files. The purpose was to serve directly to the client without being processed by Angular's build system. Because what happened earlier, when we had src slash assets, so during the build process, Angular copies the contents of the assets folder to the dist directory, making it available for deployed applications. But now we don't have assets folder. But if we want to use, so we have new public folder. That means the folder has things which are publicly accessible. So we can put assets folder inside the public folder, and favicon is by default inside the public folder only. Now, whole application's working code resides inside the source folder, and the app folder contains components, services, modules, etc. This app folder has many different files, like one is .css for styling, HTML for rendering HTML, this spec.ts for testing, and this for writing a purpose. This was the metadata which I explained in the first video, this @ component. This component comes from Angular core library. Now index.html file is the first HTML page that loads. This only renders the app component via app root selector, which is present inside the body tag. Now we have one file extra, server.ts. And that is because when I was building this new project, I enabled server-side rendering option. What is server-side rendering? It is the process of rendering web pages on the server side instead of the client's browser. Server generates the complete HTML content of a page and then sends it to the client. So this allows you to initially load the page faster. So basically, instead of clients, it is first of all going to the server side. That's why it is server side rendering. So server.ts file is for server side rendering. So this pre-renders the HTML code, okay? Styles.css is the global CSS which is applied to your whole application. It can be overwritten. Then we have gitignore. .gitignore has those folders which you want not to be pushed into your Git repository when you will upload this code to the GitHub or GitLab or whatever is used in your organization. So whenever you want to push the code, you don't want these folders to get pushed there. Okay. For that purpose, you are using gitignore. Now, one thing it is not present over here, but I want to tell you is that when you're working for different environments like production, deployment, for that, you can create one folder inside src folder naming environments, and inside that I'll show you, you can create environments.ts, environment.prod.ts files for development and production. In these files, you can manage environment specific settings like API URLs, which is used for staging, production, testing. So you can mention here. Then Angular has a very unique feature that it can automatically switch the configuration depending on the build command you are telling him. Like if you tell him that only do ng build, so it will use only environment.ts file. And because it is built for the development, right? So files will not be minified and it will use just in time compilation. That means it will compile everything at runtime. But if you will use ng build prod, then it will use ng environment.prod.ts file. Files will be minified, optimized, and it will be using ahead of time compilation. That means during the build phase, it has compiled the HTML and TypeScript code. So it will create small bundle sizes. Thus, it means that performance will be better. Now, how it automatically switches? The question is that, so it automatically switches between the files because of the configuration present in the angular.json file. We have this file replacements option where we have replace with. So in replace we have development and in with we have production. So we can, according to the build command, can switch between these files, whatever we want to use at that time. So I think this is clear. Angular.json, your configuration part, and then tsconfig.json. So these all are TypeScript configuration files, these three. So this is basically to know how TypeScript will be compiled into JavaScript. Now there are some additional files which are left, like source, app, assets, environments are clear, index, main, polyfills are left. So polyfills.ts file, basically it ensures the compatibility with older browsers by adding necessary support so that your application is suitable for all browsers and we don't need to take care, it will take care itself. Test.ts is there for setting up the unit testing part. Then we have E2E, that is for end-to-end testing. Now one thing is very important, that we had package log JSON also. So in package JSON, the thing was that we had versions in a range that we can use these versions. But in package log, we have freezed, we have logged a version. So we have to use this specific version only. And this is for consistency. This is for ensuring that exact version is being used across all the machines. So here are the differences. You can take screenshot if you want. And one thing I just want to share is about server.js file. That server.js and .ts is different. Server.js serves static files from Angular dist folder. Okay, Angular's dist folder. So this file is used when you want to mock API data. Suppose only one person has the authorization token for accessing one API, and rest of the people also want to add some features and do some stuff, but they don't have that API data. Then how will they check? So for that, they can mock the API data. One person can send them the URL link and the data. So for that, they need to create one JSON file and they can use server.js file for mocking up the data. Okay, so I hope everything is clear. Thank you, and let's meet in another videos. If you liked my content, so please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.